Hey guys, welcome to Endstep, the Upkeep after show. Last week we played $100 budget decks and it was pretty interesting. Got a little bit of diversity. Everyone kind of got to show off the main gist of what their deck was trying to do. Today we're just going to talk a little bit more about that game, a little bit more about these decks. So Tommy, for this first question I have is there anything in your deck that you didn't get to showcase? Is there like a really important card? Do you feel like your deck didn't quite get to pop off?
I mean, I don't feel like it got to quite pop off because shrines can get crazy just because all the shrine cards synergize with each other and bounce off of each other. Of you're doing a lot more damage for free, you're drawing cards for free, you're gaining life. So it didn't get to do a whole lot of that. Although at the end it was, the damage was nice.
The shrines definitely killed me.
Yeah, I say I mean, not to say it didn't do well, but it can get pretty crazy. I've seen shrine decks get pretty crazy doing that. So it just didn't quite go as fast as I would have liked it to. But the only thing that I really didn't get to show off was just my commander's ability of being able to pay one of each color and returning an enchantment from the graveyard to the battlefield. Just having that on your commander is just a super helpful ability to have when something you have that's really important gets lost. And other than that, no. Just like I've got some stuff picked out here, but mostly it's just like showing off like I had mana fixing, I had ways to protect myself, and just didn't draw it. So unfortunately, it didn't get to go as fast as I wanted. But
lucky for you, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter, thank God. But
Jason, what about you? Are there a couple cards that are important to your deck that you didn't get to show off? I mean, I feel like we didn't actually see that many Death Touchers.
No, you didn't. One of the reasons that I actually wanted to build this deck was I pulled this art card. Not this exact one. This is a different one that Morgan gave me. But I pulled this art card without the little gold magic symbol, and I was like, "Whoa, this is the dopest art card I've ever seen. What card does that go to?" And then I pulled this, which was Finn, and I was like, "Okay, well I have to build this deck now." And also, I love almost every Ent card that came out in the Lord of the Rings set, and I wanted to build a deck around them, but I didn't want to necessarily build just a Tree Folk tribal deck. I wanted to kind of just sneak these Tree Folk and have like a secret Ent army in a certain deck, and I figured this is the perfect one to do it in. So while I could probably go heavier on the Death Touch creatures, I like my Ent army. And I didn't necessarily go with just Tree Folk. I went with like a bunch of creatures that look like they might be trees or plant-based or whatever. Like, Topiary Stomper is a plant dinosaur. Figured that was fun. I have the Lignify, which is the Tree Folk tribal enchantment. The last March of the Ents is I want to play this card so bad with just all of my Ents in my hand. I have this vision of just having every Tree Folk in my deck in my hand, or all the plants that I consider Ents in my hand, and then playing that and just putting them all down and then sending my Ent army at everyone.
It is so good.
I love it. Probably the best card in the whole deck, though, Seraph the Viper's Fang. Just other type of creatures you control have Death Touch.
yeah.
Immediately I attack with anything, it's going to get Death Touch. It is the best card in the whole deck by far.
Do you have, what's that card called? The snake that like
Orin
attacks?
Frostfang.
Orin Frostfang.
I do have it. It's in Werewolves right now.
Oh, okay.
So, and I haven't found, I want to put it in here, but I haven't found a good enough card to replace. Just because, it does have card draw. It's conditional card draw based on attacking. I am attacking a lot with this deck, so I probably draw cards more often than not. But I just don't know what I would cut. And I have fun with this deck. I've only won, I've built it for, it's only been built for maybe a month now. Played with it maybe 6 times. I've only won 1 game with it, but I have so much fun when I play it. Honestly, I really do, especially when I get my Tree Folk out and I can just send my Ent army at people. I love it. But yeah, that's really it. Just my army of Ents and Seraph the Viper's Fang. It's a really good card. If you don't have it, get it. It's good.
Isengard beware. Now, Stephen, we got to see your Shadrix deck one time. I got to play it on the recent episode where we all played. I guess it's not that recent by the time this video comes out. Where we all played one of your decks, and luckily you made quite a few upgrades to the deck. Thank God. I got so screwed. And I feel like your deck kind of got to do okay, but what are a couple of your favorite cards or a couple of the most important cards that you didn't get to show off?
Well, so a lot of a big point of the deck is to benefit other people, but benefiting myself more so that I'm helping the other people, which is why it's kind of group hug, but it's kind of not. Tempting Contract is a great card. A good example of that. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent may create a treasure token. For each token who does, for each opponent who does, you create a treasure token. So it's like everyone gets a treasure, but I get 3 treasures. Coveted Jewel is also a great one. Enters the battlefield, you draw 3 cards. You can tap it, add 3 mana of any one color. Whenever one or more creatures an opponent controls attacks you and aren't blocked, that player draws 3 cards and gains control of Coveted Jewel on tap it.
I just feel like that card just makes games more fun.
And then I had Pendant of Prosperity. I play it under someone else's control, so someone else will have the ability to pay 2, tap it, to draw a card. You may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield, but then that also, whenever they do that, I get to do it as well. I do want to point out at the if I had an extra turn before I died, what I would have done is play Victimize, which would return Deathbringer Liege from my graveyard, which I know you exiled my graveyard too, so if that also didn't happen, I would have returned Deathbringer Liege from my graveyard. I then would have also still had the mana to cast Felidar Retreat, and then I also had a land in my hand, so then I'd play the land. I put a 1/1 counter on each creature I control and they gain vigilance. I'm not saying I would have won, but
Yeah, that was a lot of. That's a lot of what ifs.
Yeah.
That's a lot of. If the game would have went differently, I would have maybe won.
If the game had gone differently, the outcome would have been different.
If the asteroid didn't kill all the dinosaurs.
I could have a pet T-Rex. Baby.
one what if.
Well, yeah, cool. And I always enjoy getting to see Shadrix in action. I think it's a cool commander, and then also there's multiple ways to take the deck, so it's really cool. Yeah, my deck kind of got to do its thing. I actually will say that this was actually a pretty tame version, or a tame game that this deck can do. I've only played it maybe 2 or 3 other times, and every other time it's gotten so complex that I've been like, I don't understand what I'm doing anymore. Like, there's just too many cards on the field, because a lot of what I'm doing is I'm playing a bunch of 0 mana artifacts, so I can immediately tap them to either for mana or to exile the top card of my library and keep the engine going. And a lot of these artifacts, or these eggs, if you will, these 0, 1, 2 mana artifacts, they enter the battlefield, you get to draw a card, so you can keep it going pretty easy. Unfortunately, I wasn't getting a lot of those. I was getting a lot of the more situational artifacts. The problem with this deck, other than I just had a mediocre game, was I didn't find any of my ways to actually do anything with those artifacts I had. So the simple ways of actually doing something efficient in the game is having Reckless Fireweaver out in play, which says whenever a artifact enters the battlefield under my control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So if I'm having a really big explosive turn, that can obviously do a ton of damage. And then to a lesser extent, the same is true with Keswick Flame Breather and Firebrand Archer, which just does for non-creature spells. So it's not going to always happen as often as with the Reckless Fireweaver, but it's still pretty good. So those are good ways to deal a lot of damage. And then the main win con is the Hellkite Tyrant. And that's just at the beginning of my upkeep. If I have 20 or more artifacts, I win the game. Problem is people are going to see that, and then I have to wait till it's my upkeep again, and people are going to either get rid of my artifacts or going to get rid of the Hellkite. So I don't think that's an efficient win con, because the deck doesn't really have good ways to protect itself. So that's definitely a bummer. Otherwise, the main couple cards that are really important to the synergy to the deck are Shimmermere, which lets me cast my artifacts at instant speed, which means I can really just kind of hold out and play in a way that better protects myself. And then what I'll ask in my next question, I'll tease this now, is the Sensei's Divining Top. Obviously that's insane because it's a 1 mana artifact that does all the things that it does with my commander, but it also lets me reorder the top of my deck, which then when I'm going to be exiling those cards with my commander, that obviously helps us so I'm not screwing myself over, and all of that. So that leads me though into the next question is, do you guys feel like $100 budget's kind of dumb? Because I feel like at this point we're just kind of playing normal decks. Because when we played with the $50 budget decks last season, that was a genuine restriction. the $100 didn't feel like much. Like when I built my base deck, it was like $70 or something, and I was like, well, now I got $30 for just wiggle room. So like that's what let me add the Sensei's Divining Top into my deck, because I realized I had the budget. I was able to upgrade my land base quite a bit, and up until I got to the $100 mark, and I just feel like the deck functions just fine without that. So did you guys kind of come across that, or did you find that even with the $100 budget, it was hard to stay under 100?
I kind of agree with you. I think it's at least for our play group, it feels pretty standard as far as like we weren't super restricted in stuff we would normally do. And yeah, I was kind of in the same boat of like I got the core deck list, and I was at like $75. I'm like, okay, well now let's play around with with what I can. I agree with you, but I don't necessarily think it's dumb. I think it's just good to show that like you don't need a $3,000 deck with a set of original dual lands and
Right.
shock lands to have fun playing Commander. You can spend less than $100 and have a deck that can perform pretty well in a lot of circumstances and have a lot of fun with. So I think it's good to show that. But I do agree with you that for our play group, at least, it feels like it wasn't as much of a restriction. Whereas, like I didn't play in the $50 budget episode, but I know you guys were like, it was a restriction. You were like, okay, how am I going to make a playable, competent deck for $50? Like,
Well,
that's
in that, specifically with mana base, because you were playing a 5-color deck, but like you were kind of able to make it work. Obviously, if you didn't have the $100 budget, you could have made the mana base way better.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But in the $50 budget, I was playing a 4-color deck, so that hurt on a $50 budget.
Rough. Well, and like I was saying, in a $100 budget, there's plenty of room for stuff like Chromatic Lantern and even Prismatic Omen.
Yeah.
That just say, all right, cool, mana fixing. You don't have to worry about what lands or what.
Yeah.
Everything is everything.
Yeah.
Go nuts. And so it's like, yeah, but that would be, especially Prismatic Omen being what it is and how expensive it can be. Yeah, that's hard to fit into a $50 deck, but a $100 deck gives it a lot more room to work. So yeah, that's for sure.
Did you have anything to add to that, Jason?
I just completely agree. I didn't, and I agree from a different end of the spectrum, I guess, so to speak. I didn't build this deck for this episode. I had this deck, and I already knew that the budget for this deck was going to be like, I knew what cards I would have to take out in order to make it $100 or less. And when it was all said and done, excluding the price of basic lands, it was $97. And I had to take out like 8 cards and just replace it with proliferate stuff, extra like ramp, extra card draw, and then lands. It wasn't hard. It didn't really feel like much of a restriction to me. The best part about it, I got to keep all my Ents.
Steven, did you have anything to add to that?
I definitely think you can build a pretty decent deck for $100. And in fact, with my deck, before I made any additions to it, I still had an extra $30, $40.
Yeah, your deck was only like $70 or something.
Before I made any changes to it, and I felt like you didn't get to see a whole lot of the new cards that I added to it. But it's more balanced overall. The mana base is better. There's less basic lands.
Good.
Okay, you had a lot though. You had a lot.
You had like
I was
20.
drawing a lot.
You had like 20 something basic lands in a 2-color deck.
And you were drawing a lot.
In a 2-color deck, that's a lot.
Well, I mean, what other lands is he gonna draw? There's 22 of them.
Temple of the False God. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, geez.
Which is still in the deck.
The only other thing that I would add to this part of the conversation is that we even said in the Endstep for the $50 budget deck that, like, depending on your commander, your archetype, how many colors you're running, how extravagant your mana base needs to be in order for it to function properly, you can still build something pretty dang strong on a $50 budget. And I feel like that's more than doubled. I feel like this isn't even an exponential thing when we go from $50 to $100. I don't feel like that these decks are twice as strong. I feel like these are much more than
Way
twice
more
as
than
strong.
that. Yeah, for sure.
So I think that I think it does depend. It depends on your archetype. I feel like artifacts, you can build a good artifact deck on a budget. Maybe a 5-color.
You can build a solid enchantments deck for.
Yeah, but maybe not 5-color. Like your mana base is like meh. But in general,
Even
you can,
a bunch of like tribals. Like you can build a good Merfolk deck
Yeah.
cheap. There's just so many merfolk out there that like make it an accessible like tribal for a budget deck. There's a bunch of different ways that you could save money when building decks.
Yeah. So I guess I don't have any other. Well, so if we ever did another budget if we ever did another budget episode, what would you guys like the budget to be set at? Because I feel like 50 is hard, but it's doable. It's hard. $100 is maybe too high. Do we go 75? Do we do 50 again? Do we go lower?
I think we should
what
go
do
low.
we do?
I think we should go lower.
Really?
Lower than 50.
yeah?
Lower than 50.
So what, like 20?
Maybe
round?
like 25,
It'd
30.
be tough. It'd be
It
tough.
would be tough.
But
Everyone would be playing monocolored decks.
yeah, that's the thing. Is it?
It hurts your mana base more than anything else.
I think maybe if we did another budget, maybe it was $50 3-color. You know, so you're
So
not,
set some kind of
so-
other restriction.
some
that's
other
not
restriction
directly
so that
with the price.
not directly with the price, but still make it a challenge, because a 3-color deck for $50 would be not the easiest.
But Tommy, what do I call that video, and how do I make that thumbnail?
Yeah, I know.
$50 budget, but also only 3 colors.
Right. You asked for ideas. I gave you an idea. What do you want from me?
No. I mean, it's a good idea.
I know-
I
I
think
know
that
what you
is
mean.
it.
I
That
know,
is
but-
logical.
No, it's a good idea.
I see what you mean.
It's not a good idea.
I
Most
get
of the
you.
time.
It's a good idea. I'm dumb. I don't know how I'm supposed to manage that from the
And I
production
get
side of
that.
things.
Yeah.
What did you have any other ideas?
No. No. If we were gonna do something, I'd say less, $30, $30 budget deck.
I think a $25 budget deck would be really interesting. So maybe that's something we consider for season 3. If that's something you guys would be interested in, let us know in the comments. I think
Or, like,
something like that would be fun.
You do it where like every card in the deck except one.
So,
is
like, maybe-
$30 or under, and then you get one like just either this is gonna win me the game card or this is gonna give me so much advantage card.
You get a
when
golden
we were-
child that
Like Creator
When
of
we were-
Behemoth.
Yeah,
yeah, you're right.
Like
When
like
we
a
were-
commander within the commander.
Yeah. Well, when we were planning this episode originally, before we started filming the season or anything, Tommy was thinking about doing an old Gnawbone
Old
deck.
Gnawbone.
And he decided it was not the right time to build that deck for him. And we had come to the decision that like old Gnawbone by itself is like a $30 card or something stupid.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like if you go a couple dollars over, not that big of a deal. So maybe it could be like your deck is $50, but then you can spend like however much money you want on your commander or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get like a crazy strong, kind of expensive-ish commander. That might be fun. So, did you guys have any other last comments about your decks, your game, anything like that before we wrapped up?
No, not really. I
I wish I won. but-
well, I mean, yeah. I'm happy. I finally got a win with a deck I built. That's fun.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
but
he got his first win on the channel with a deck that he actually built.
yeah.
So
Even though the other one I won, no one would have won with the deck they built because it was all precons. But
Yes.
regardless, I'm happy about that. And yeah, I think this deck is just fun. Shrines is just fun.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm glad you built it.
especially after the Neon Dynasty set came out a couple years ago. That really gave it a good commander and able to be viable. It's super fun.
It
So
makes me very happy that shrines are an actual like
Yeah.
it's viable.
Yes,
and, like,
Every
you can
now
do it
and then
now.
I'll run into someone on Arena who's playing Shrines, and
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
it's so weird. But then because on Arena, you're playing the actual formats where you can play multiples and stuff. So they don't go like, oh, one of each shrine because you need the shrines. They're just like, no, here's the couple best shrines. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna play multiples of
Yeah,
them. It's kind of fun.
It's like they got 4 Sanctum of Stone Fangs and
Yeah.
4 so it's just okay, cool. Now I'm losing 15 life on their upkeep and on their pre-combat. This is
God,
nuts.
isn't that great?
Yeah, it's
Isn't
great.
that-
I don't know if that's the right word. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? Like, do you have any
Already did.
regrets? Do you have any regrets?
I wish I won.
I wish you had killed Jason instead of me. No, but
I'm
I
glad
actually,
your regret.
no, like it actually probably was smart because I kind of looked ahead. I don't think it's going to end up in the video, but I did end up looking ahead because I would have kind of gone in desperation mode with my commander. I would have recast my commander, started exiling cards off the top to find answers, and like 2 or 3 cards down was Blasphemous Act. That
That would have done it.
That would have done it. That would have probably
done it.
probably would have saved me. I will say the only other note I have about this deck is that I don't actually like it.
Morgan doesn't like Gruul.
I don't like Gruul. Like when we played, I think it was episode 11. We spun a wheel, got a random 2-color pair, and we had to build a deck with whatever color combination we had. And I got Gruul. I hated that deck. I won. I won that game, and it just was not
He's
fun.
so
for me.
ungrateful. So ungrateful.
I just did. It just wasn't the kind of deck that I was like, this was awesome. I mean, it was good, but it just wasn't like my playstyle. And so when I saw Miria, I was like, wow, this is like a Gruul deck for me. This is my kind of Gruul deck. So I got really excited to build it, and then I've played it 3 or 4 times now, and I'm like, this is complicated. Like this is too much thinking. I just want to, like, I need some kind of happy medium. So what I'm going to try doing, this is in the 99 of this deck, but I'm going to make it the commander. I'm going to have Faldorn, Dreadwolf Herald as the commander for this deck. It works good in the 99 with Miria because Miria is going to let me cast cards from exile, so that will at least give me some more blockers and attackers and stuff like that. But I think if I build around Faldorn, I think it's going to create something that's a little more interesting. My main concern is it might play too similarly to my Prosper deck, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Who knows? But that's kind of where I am at right now with Gruul and my relationship with really that color combination just in general. But thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for checking this video out, and make sure you're subscribed. We have lots of other awesome games coming in the near future, and we're going to keep doing these after shows, talking more about the game, talking more about our decks. If you have any other, I don't know, questions you'd like me to be asking the guys when we have these kind of discussions, let me know in the comments. And yeah, again, make sure you're subscribed so you see other awesome games when they come out. And I'm sure you've missed some of them, so head back. I don't know what episode number this is, but there's a lot of them now at this point. Go check out any games you might have missed, and we will see you guys later.
See you.